No worries.
Yep, we're now live.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome members, officers and members of the public to this Joint Staff Consultative Committee. Welcome to this virtual meeting of the Joint Staff Consultative Committee that is being conducted with members, officers, representatives at various locations. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny manager, James Lovegrove, to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just quickly run through the officers and members joining us. If you can just confirm that you can hear me and that we can hear you. So we'll start with Councillor Raj Bakar.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Claire Strong.
Yeah, morning.
Thank you. And Councillor Terry Hone.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. And Councillor Tom Plater is not with us yet. I will let him in if he joins us. Rebecca Webb.
Good morning.
Thank you, Rebecca. Ian Cooper.
Yes, good morning.
Keith Fitzpatrick Matthews.
Good morning.
Thank you. Christina Core.
She has posted in the chat,
I've just
so
seen,
she's dropped and rejoining.
Yes, so I'll let her back in if she joins us later. And then we were expecting Lewis Franklin and Vicky Kent, but I don't think they're with us yet. Again, I'll let them in if they join us. I don't think there are any other members or officers in attendance. Councillor Plater's just joined, so I'll check you can hear us. And so just to explain, members may request to speak using the raise hand function, and the same function will be used where a vote is required. The chair will notify you of when it is your turn to speak. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? No, I'm just Christina and Tom. Councillor Plater are just joining us. So I think Councillor Plater, can you hear us and can we hear you?
Yeah, that should be all right.
Great, thank you. And Christina, can you hear us now? Christina, can you hear us at all? Okay, we'll proceed with the meeting. I'll hand back to the chair to continue and I'll try and resolve the issues Christine's having. Back to you, Councillor Bakar.
Okay, just to start with agenda item 1, apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Elizabeth Dennis. Are there any other apologies? Okay. Agenda item 2, I'd like to propose that we take the previous, as read and approved as the record, the minutes of the committee held on the 15th of March 2023. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, happy to second that.
I was happy to propose. I don't know that you were actually at the meeting, were you, Councillor Backer?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm happy to propose the minutes.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Okay. Agenda item 3. This meeting is
Should we not vote on them, or is that? Should we just miss that bit?
I do apologise. Yeah, so if I can have everybody voting for that, please. If you could just raise your hands. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Apologies. So moving on to agenda item 3, this meeting is being audio and video recorded and the recordings will be available on ModGov or the North Herts Council YouTube page. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. Agenda item 4, the Staff Consultation Forum. So over to you, Ian, to present that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As ever, always a very wide variety of conversation we have at a Staff Consultation Forum. So I'll just pick out some brief highlights and also try and avoid covering anything that will come up in the HR information that is the next item. So as a brief run through, in April, we heard about and given a chance to comment on the proposed changes in the Customer Service Centre and the recording of outgoing calls. There's a kind of discussion around that, about the implications of that, particularly around how staff could still have confidential calls, particularly with HR and unions if required. It's a useful conversation to have there. There's been kind of quite a few topics around the long service awards. We proposed some changes a while back and have been kind of listening to feedback on that and sort of started tweaking what we're doing. Overall, I think the view is it's positive, but with any change, there's always some kind of people who kind of feel like they haven't got the same benefits as others. So we're trying to do what we can to address that through feedback through the staff consultation forum. In general, and also particularly in response to the fact we had a sort of small fire that was sort of set outside the entrance to the DCO, we raised the importance of building security, particularly around people letting others into the building and making sure that those coming to the building have an ID badge. Both those applies to both staff and councillors, making sure we know who's coming to the building. And then finally, just wanted to point out about the elections, and we noticed the results in the June meeting, but also the fact that we've kind of mentioned a few times in the notes around the fact that staff are kind of key contributors to making sure that the elections happen, both in terms of running the polling stations and also the count at the end of it. So those are kind of the highlights I wanted to pick out from those 4 meetings we've got on the agenda there. But as ever, happy to take any questions on any particular subjects that have caught your eye.
Yeah, milk was one thing I noticed when you mentioned. Not of interest to me, but it seems that was on their agenda. The problem with milk.
Councillor Clearstrong.
Thank you. Just really a question on IT and staffing. And I mean, as all staff are using IT equipment, if there's problems in the IT department, that can always give delays if people have a problem with a password or getting access. I just wondered whether or not those issues that might have been are now resolved.
I know that on the kind of the help desk side of the IT team, they went out to recruitment, and I think they managed to recruit two people, one on a temporary basis, because that's in addition to establishment, because they had some spare budget to be able to afford that. But I do know on the kind of the development side, they have had some people who are leaving, who have left, and therefore in the process of recruiting to those. So on one side, in terms of the day-to-day, in terms of the help desk side, looking more promising, I think. But on the development side, looking to recruit again. And always, yeah, people just choose to leave, and it does cause issues.
It was more really to know whether or not perhaps from staff and from the, actually at the staff meetings, whether or not the staff were concerned at all or had any comments or experiences of where, they are not able to, to be able to work efficiently or effectively because of there might be issues around the IT help that they would need, but weren't perhaps able to get at the time they wanted it. Maybe that's a question, perhaps you could do it in the next round of meetings.
Yeah, I mean, I think I will raise it at SCF to make sure people are happy, but I think in general, people happy with the support they get from the staff help, from the IT help desk. Obviously, everyone shares frustrations when IT systems start to fall over for no apparent reason, and then IT scrambled around to fix them. But I don't think staff often notice the lack of capacity in terms of the immediate support they get. But I will raise it in this SCF meeting, just sort of check that out more widely.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5. Just a HR update by Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take you through some of the report highlighting the key areas, starting at 3.2. So recruitment and selection continues to be an area of focus for the team and for many of our managers. The table in this section shows we've experienced more difficulty in filling certain posts, with 7 not successfully filled on the first attempt during this period. And you can see from the second table in that section, various routes are taken to find a solution to these issues. It is important to note as well that we have been able to successfully fill several posts within the period. We continue to work on refreshing our recruitment practices and processes, and some of which will be highlighted in the discussion paper later in the meeting. We've launched our job profile document, and this is a merge of our job description and person specification. It's much easier to use and it includes our values. And we've also uploaded the How We Work document to the recruitment web pages. And this document describes the different role profiles that we have at the council. So hybrid working, remote working, fully location-based and out and about. And it explains our stance on work-life balance. So it gives candidates a really good feel for what it's like to work at North Herts. 3.4 shows that turnover is beginning to increase, and this will reflect in future recruitment activity. And the team's work with managers and reviewing exit information continues. 3.6 covers pay bargaining, and the main update here is that the unions are balloting for strike action. They're balloting on a disaggregated basis, which means the strike action could be taken at each individual council, and we expect to hear more about this later in the summer. Moving on to 3.8, in April, we launched our new employee assistance programme, which offers support, advice and counselling for our employees. At a previous Jscc, we covered the importance of a variety of routes for access when discussing men's health. And our new programme allows access via standard routes such as a website and telephone, but also additional options around sending a text message or having a live chat with advisors. We hope that this will help to increase usage of the scheme, and will continue to remind employees of the services available from the Employee Assistance Programme. Also in April, our personal development morning focused on the value together, and the team arranged a coffee morning, which was in the office and well attended. And we've received positive feedback about the personal development mornings in general, and then also about the development opportunities that are offered by being part of the inclusion group and the staff consultation forum. So it's really good to see employees are getting involved in these groups and focusing on their development. 3.10, our inclusion group continues to meet quarterly, and they've recently attended a staff briefing to raise more awareness about what they do, why it's important, and the changes that they've been involved with so far. One of the areas that inclusion group focuses on is the gender pay gap. And in our last Jscc meeting, I provided the most recent gender pay gap figures, which have now been published. As a reminder, our 2022 mean pay gap is 19.1%, and this is an increase from 2021. Other than the 2022 data, since we started reporting in 2017, the pay gap has decreased due to a focused effort, including increasing female representation at leadership team, continuing to offer a variety of training and development opportunities, and expanding the flexible and hybrid working options. The early indications are that our 2023 figures will be improved, and HR will be working with Inclusion Group to develop a refreshed action plan in the coming months. 3.12 shows a summary of the analysis from our equalities data from 2022, and you'll see that the overall picture is remaining fairly stable. And then finally, 3.13 shows our absence data, which has improved during this period, mostly relating to a reduction in short-term absence. I'm happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry, Councillor Carr, you're muted at the moment, I think.
Oh, I do apologise, sorry. So agenda item 6, sorry. If Rebecca could present that, please, the attracting and rewarding scarce talent.
Would you like, Chair, to have a summary of the discussion paper or move straight into the discussion?
If you could do just a brief summary, that would be great, please. Thank you.
Okay. So Today's discussion paper is around attracting and rewarding scarce talent. Recruitment and retention has been a focus for many months because the employment market conditions are impacting many sectors. And this is having an impact on us recruiting to several roles, including those that were previously much easier to fill. So the paper includes a summary of some improvements that we have made with this in mind. One area of improvement has been an increased use of social media. So this is about better adverts, including images which help us stand out from the crowd on things like Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. They highlight, the adverts have started to highlight key areas of interest that relating to a specific role, and it might be something that's specific to local government or North Herts to really create more interest in the role. And you can see that the paper includes a couple of examples of our social media adverts, and you may have seen those when you've been on social media as well. Benefits, we have a really good selection of benefits, and highlighting these during the recruitment process will make us look much more attractive as an employer, especially as we cannot always compete on pay. Flexible working and the ability to work from home are really important job factors for many of our job applicants. So it's really important that we promote the high level of flexibility which is available as part of many of our roles. We've amended the wording in our job adverts to highlight this. And we now encourage managers to consider how many office days are needed for a hybrid role, particularly when advertising, so that that's really clear when the job advert goes out. And it can help widen the geographical area that a candidate can come from, which in turn increases the pool of talent. Moving on to the pay section, it's really important that we continue to be transparent and include pay bands on the job adverts rather than just a single figure. And also putting our recruitment and retention incentives policy to use where required, especially relating to hard to fill posts. And then finally, development is a key area, and we have a really good record of training and development. Many of our employees have developed their career with us and moved between jobs or sometimes across service areas. We have our apprentice scheme in place, which I often talk about in this meeting, but it's really popular and very successful, and it helps people develop their skills and experience from a grassroots level. And I will have said before that many of our apprentices then are able to get a permanent job with North Herts and stay on, so we really reap the benefits of what they've learned during their apprenticeships. And then finally, it's really important for us to use the training schemes and career grade roles that allow a career path for our professional qualifications. So this relates specifically really to places like planning, environmental health and legal services, and that will help us attract talent in those hard to fill roles.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does anybody have any questions? Claire?
You saw me unmuting there. Well, not to disappoint, but just a comment. And I have to say, if I was looking at some of these ads that are in the paper, like the waste contracts officer one, ability to, if I was thinking about joining some of those ticked boxes, like ability to deal with complaints, that would send a few little warning signs through me, and the ability to work under pressure. I think if I was looking at ability to improve our services, might be something that made me think, oh, you know, there's improvement moving forward here. And, you know, and something, you know, opportunity to further my career would be something I would be looking for. I say under pressure and complaints wouldn't enthrall me with the opportunity to want to be changing job if that was an environment I might be going into. Just a comment.
Noted, Councillor Strong, thank you. And we can help support the managers in selecting the criteria that go onto those adverts. I
think
we'll bear that in mind.
Yeah, I think we want ticking boxes that are going to look really positive. Not a criticism, obviously, but.
Councillor Terry Hone.
Thank you. Yeah, just the thoughts around development, in particular, further education and training, particular education and our opportunities and our policy as far as when we recruit somebody who perhaps is part qualified, what support do we give them to ensure they reach more qualifications, and how do we publicize that in our recruitment process?
It will depend on the role. So often in where there's a professional qualification, we might have a career graded post, which would allow a candidate to enter at any level, and they could come in at the lowest level with a commitment from us then to further develop them. So in a career grade role, that's really clear. There's information on our recruitment website pages around support for further development, and that would then form part of probably the induction, but certainly the RPR, so our appraisal process moving forward. It would be picked up in there. But an example, we have a trainee business partner that's being advertised at the moment, and there's real clarity on the advert that we will support their training for a level 5 HR qualification. So where that's in place and a fundamental part of the role, that will be in the advert, but that doesn't mean that for those that it's not covered in the role specifically, that it's not possible. And that's what the RPRs are important for. Thank you.
And then with existing employees as well, do we sit down with them and say, look, how would you like to improve your qualifications? I guess that's probably part of the development process, but how does that work in terms of, do we sit down with virtual employees and say, is there anything specifically that you'd like to be to go through a further education process that can develop you, not totally in the perhaps role you play, but certainly develop you in your as a person supporting the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of our appraisal process. So the template form that every manager uses gives us an area for that to be discussed. So every employee should be asked that at least annually. But the whole idea with our regular performance review process, which is what we call our appraisal process, is that happens regularly, and that document is referred to on an ongoing basis. So at any stage, an employee can raise that with their manager, but they will be specifically asked about it at least once a year to have that discussion.
And the manager will know what level of support we can give to employees in terms of perhaps days off or perhaps access to certain things. Yeah, the manager will have access to get that information. All of that will be available on the intranet for them. But of course, they only need to contact HR and have a quick conversation, and we can provide all of that information. Okay, as long as people know that, that's a key to it. If they want to do an MBA, for example, go to the process of doing that, how we can help them, how we can support them. They come to you, Rebecca, and you'll be able to point them in the direction, yeah? Yeah, absolutely. And we could probably do a bit more publicising on the learning and development opportunities that are available, and how to have that discussion with your manager. I can pick up on that with Helen in the team. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions before we move on? No. Okay, so finally, agenda item 7, future discussion topics. Does anybody have any areas of interest that they'd like to propose for the next meeting?
Certainly, we have to be kept informed of recruitment. I mean, that's and how, if we have any issues, what are we doing about them, and specific areas where we're exposed. Yeah. So anything that keeps us in that loop, and I imagine every time we have this Jscc, that will be one of the items that we we concentrate on, yeah? And as you can hear, my phone is ringing now.
Anybody else? Claire?
Thanks, Raj. I think, again, for me, I mean, always our employees are the most important asset that we have for running the business. So it's things, you know, again, social media for recruitment. I mean, I think, again, how we're recruiting, how we're getting our messages out. And again, once we've got staff, it's the staff is their well-being and making, you know, again, I think it's, you know, again, as Terry said, making sure that, you know, we're looking after staff, hoping with them with their careers on their, you know, on their journey with us. Just as a question, do we work with sort of other authorities sometimes to do, like, you know, sending them to other authorities to get an experience of, you know, so for example, customer service representative in our authority, do we ever sort of work with some neighbouring authorities and say, well, hey, go and see how they do their jobs and roles in a neighbouring home, just sort of like a job exchange for the day, just to try and, I don't know, just sort of widen our horizons at all and experiences?
We've obviously got a secondment policy, which kind of formalises that process and allows exchange of staff across local authorities. Informally, many of our service managers, and I'm sure the service directors, then have contact with their counterpart in other authorities, which allows for really good sharing of knowledge and practice and things that have worked well. So I know I certainly have that. I know that there are other service managers that have that as well. So there is that exchange of information. There is no formal process for an experience day at another authority at the moment.
I mean, it might have two things. Why they might realise, actually, my job in North Herts is absolutely fabulous and I wouldn't want to move. But also, you know, sometimes you can see Ian Cooper's smiling at that thought. But also it might say, oh, there's other things. But again, it's about, you know, employees, you know, or sometimes challenging oneself to see if one's, you know, really having the fulfillment in a career. And you know, you can go and see an organisation work and pick up items of best practice that you can come bring back and implement.
Any more? Just gone and muted myself. So I just had one, employee engagement for hybrid working. I think if we could bring that to the next meeting, that would be great. Just be good to know where we're at with that. Does anybody else have anything else before we close the meeting? Ian?
I just want to clarify which one we wanted to choose for the next meeting. We've had sort of, I think, 3 suggestions in there. I think in terms of the recruitment stuff, we've obviously covered that a bit today, and we'll pick up the ongoing updates to the HR update anyway. So maybe we leave the social media one for a little bit longer. Maybe that can be the one after next meeting, just a suggestion. And maybe we do pick up employee engagement in the hybrid environment as the next topic, as that's going to be a bit different to what we discussed today. But just looking for suggestions, just big sort of plump for one topic, so we can have do a decent paper and then get a bit of in-depth discussion going on it.
Okay.
Are members happy with that? Perfect. Okay, so we'll go with the hybrid working then. Seems quite topical as well at the moment. So yeah, so if everybody's happy, we'll bring the meeting to a close. The next meeting, is on the 18th of October. Thank you, everyone.
Can I give my apologies for that meeting as well, please?
That's fine. Thank you, Terry.
Unless you want me to be with the creatures that are behind me. Right, because that's where I should be.
We'll have to see whether Councillor Thake can sub for you then, Terry.
Yeah, I'll send him a message. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.